us. They're actually in London doing same thing without us there presenting the film in Europe. Nate Palmer, you know, as you could probably notice, a film like that could be made really by a very, very close friend. It's not a really, you know, here's a pro crew and here's a budget and off you go. That came in a very, 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 very end of the film when Vice News chimed in to help it along and finalize it. But Nate Palmer is a very close friend of mine from way back in the day, and that's how you get the footage of, you know, of band fighting in the front of Steve Albini and not giving any fuck about it. Another thing is, in the course of doing this awesome tour, which is a really a pioneering thing for us to do, you know, just get out on the road with Sergey and I. Thinking about it, that there we go. It's all gonna happen. Another thing is that we found that it's a lot cooler to and more fun for everyone involved to kind of mix up the Q&A with music, because, you know, so yes, because as you'd probably notice, one of our chief exports of Gogol Bordello is chaos. So this kind of, you know, fits that concept. And we also have so many songs that were like message driven that I found that I could answer so many questions with just our songs. And it actually creates a pretty interesting set list. So as we go along the night, please, you know, fire away. There's a microphone over there. Because, I mean, if you're sitting here, then let's just talk. But if you're sitting over there, like, my hearing is not what it was. You can't, you know, play 2,000 shows and have a hearing like you've never played 2,000 shows. It just doesn't work like that. So, I think that, well, let's break some ice right here. Here's a song that I was very, very heavily vouching for to be in the movie, and it still was not in the movie. Because actually, I removed myself completely from the process of making this movie as soon as it started getting edited. And if anybody ever will make a documentary film on your project or on you, I recommend doing the same. Just don't even try to, you know, interfere with the vision of storytellers, because it's not really, it might be ironic to say, but it's not really about you. You know, it's kind of about the many things entangled via you. And so I kind of signed up for that. And so some things were left out that we thought are very important to keep in. Some things that we didn't want to be there are there. But, you know, who gives a fuck? You know, here's the film and here's us and here's you. So let's check it out. still find it. I'll be one poison hearts. No matter where you are, exile. Right. Open eyes. When I'm still looking, and I still find it. I'll be one poison hearts. No matter where you are, exile. No matter where you are, exile. Stuck in my chest. Where are you now, my solidera? Who took you for a madness? Oh, we stepped together in a river. I tried to feel it more to loyal. Last time I saw you was in the middle. So did you ever reach the soil? Where are you now, my compañera? Your legs are stuck in my fist. Where are you now, my solidera? Where are you now, my compañera? I'm in bricks from down to town. Where are you now, my solidera? I'm at my final down. If the slip without desire, would you like going door I am? Oh, Miss Guy, you ever say I want it out of the more fragile? She's like hanging over while the pressure you can't fly in this condition. And if no one in their leaves, I don't know, is my mission. Where are you now, my compañera? You're really flat, stuck in my chest. Where are you now, my solidera? What took you from the nest? Where are you now, my compañera? I'm in rich from down to town. Where are you now, my solidera? I never final down, yeah. My final down. My final down. Thank you, Seattle! Yeah, all right. So let's talk. Let's talk real talk. What do you got? Or you want us to do all the work? Fuck. Yeah, fire away. Nice shirt, man. Vintage.
How do we say Ukraine?
Which song would that for me would be? Yeah, it's a Mercy Seat of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. For sure. I grew up listening to Birthday Party and Nick Cave. And I arrived here in the States already being downright fanatic of that music. And I was just perplexed how nobody really fucking knew anything about it here. Yeah. Actually, yeah, I came to New York because I was featured in a film because of Sonic Youth. And it was just became like a vector setting concert. And when I got here, it took me 2 years to get here after the concert. And I was still, I was the only person that I've met here that knew about Sonic Youth when I got here. About maybe like 92, 93. So I came here in 1990, so 92, 93, because of help of, the grunge breakthrough. A lot of, that pushed a lot of music to the airwaves, and Sonic Youth became very well recognized, as they should have been even 10 years before then. But yeah, it was chiefly all about Birthday Party and Sonic Youth, basically, and Joy Division, a couple other bands that had distinctly obsessive just obsessive sensibility. And because for me it was like, if you ain't obsessed, then it ain't shit, If it's not coming from a frame of mind of absolute tonal vision, then it's that's not my music. No. I'm not having any of that. Whether it was Marcus Smith and The Fall, or I Stutze and Neubauten, or as I said, like Birthday Party and the Bad Seeds, or Sonic Youth, I just wasn't, or Swans, like I wasn't interested in any of that music. So it's kind of like that, yeah. And as a matter of fact, because of that song, Undestructible, and the Gogol Bordello kind of a big song, we close with that song. A lot of times, for a lot of years, we closed the show with that song. Baraforo, Undestructible mashup. It was written, back when I was a baby listening to Mercy Seat, this obsessive song that goes on for 9 minutes, I think. Quite entrancing and repetitive. I thought, well, damn, when I'm gonna grow up, I'm gonna write a song that's even fucking longer, and even more obsessive, and even more awesome, and even more maniacal. So it's definitely part of our, vitamins. Yeah. Hi.
Okay, so I'm going to bring the crowd down a little bit. Sorry for that. Because I have a question for you with regards to your theme of protest and how you're using your music to be able to do a little bit of, protesting for what was going on or is going on over in Ukraine. And I wanted to know, what keeps you going with that? And do you ever get afraid? I mean, there certainly is a habit of people falling out of windows that seems to be contagious, and there's things that could happen, and yet you certainly have toured through Europe, gone to Poland, and so on and so forth. So were you ever afraid of continuing with what it is that you do and your form of protest and such?
Well, this is like a really kind of.
I know.
Let me like compact it together, if I understand correctly. I think what you're saying is like, why does artist goes out there in a spirit of defiance?
Yes.
So it's a kind of a, I guess it's a reflection of an inner conflict, and first of all, it's inevitable. Whether you're an artist or not, inner and outer conflict is inevitable, and that's why we're here on this planet, is to resolve that conflict. And any scripture or any spiritual discipline, if you really get into nuts and bolts of it, it's all about really, can you resolve the conflict between can you find your place in the world where the white, the light and the darkness is fighting a regular basis, and how can you diffuse the conflict with your own? What's your place about it? But these are like humongous questions, and I mean, I'm sure we're going to get to the bottom of it tonight. I think this is the night when evolution is going to have a quantum leap. And people are going to look it up tomorrow on YouTube and be like, oh, that's what it's about. Okay. So, here's the thing. As I think it was Carl Jung, correct me if I'm wrong, Professor, who said that a person's trajectory in life and their success only depends on the intensity of their inner conflict and desire to resolve it. So there you have it. It's an inevitable task that everybody is facing, except that artists go out there and resolve it in public so that everybody else can resolve it vicariously through them. It's something like that. I should have a more concise answer by about 4 a.m. for sure.
Hey, thank you very much for the movie and the music. It's great.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
I was lucky enough to see Gogol Bordello 3 times, I guess, in the Bay Area. But the first time was at Hardly Strictly Bluegrass, and it was still the gold standard for like the eccentric, crazy music you can see at that weekend of music. And I just wanted to ask you, like, being everywhere that you've been, 2,000 places, whatever you said, the shows that you've played, like, if you could tell us any great stories of, in the world, even Ukraine, where you've played, if some of those stories could be told, I'd love to hear it.
Well, when you say Bay Area, that was the San Francisco?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the outdoor one, maybe 2017?
Yeah. Well, actually, San Francisco and Seattle and Vancouver and Portland, that was like our big kind of, we played a lot in that area and always looked forward to it. And because so much great music came out of that, you got No Means No in Vancouver, and San Francisco, needless to say, and Portland, Poison Idea, and so, we always had like a connection with a hardcore scene. So a lot of, as you saw in the movie, my kind of big connection into the local soil was because of hardcore music. That actually kind of snapped me out of this whole like art
You're
form.
riffing Fugazi, like there was some.
Yeah, of course. It's really amazing. I was obsessed with all the music that I described earlier, and then as soon as I landed, I hit it off with a group of very cool root boy kids in Vermont. They were kind of just a skinhead crew, and by skinhead I mean root boy, anti-Nazi skinhead. These days we have to clear it on the spot. Back then it was unthinkable that there would be some kind of Nazi skinhead thing, because I grew up with skinheads in Ukraine, and that was the crew. Those were the people who had the coolest music and coolest vibe and coolest information they had. And you probably saw the movie This Is England, or if you haven't, then that movie explains well how that scene kind of can get ruined by one single person with a wrong kind of message. And so, but anyway, going back to the hardcore scene, Yeah, I mean, within several weeks of being here, I was brought to a Fugazi show, and again, my life was never the same after that. Yeah, see, and so going back to the Bay Area, one of the first times we played here, maybe even the first or maybe the second time, it was we played in the Slims several nights. Yeah, great place with Jose cooking for entire band, awesome dude. And Joe Biafra came. Yeah, and you know, he said, "Yeah, I heard about you guys, and I'm gonna just say hello, and because I'm probably not gonna stick around through the whole show, but you know, because if it's gonna suck, I'm gonna leave actually after the." And okay, all right, great, thanks for coming. And then 6 a.m. outside of Slim's on the curb, we're sitting with Joe Biafra and talking about punk rock. And about Polish punk rock, about Deserta, the band that he helped to release here, in a Polish punk hardcore band, real deal band. And that night, there was also a flock of punk rock kids. I designed a very special metaphysical emblem on some ungodly piece of cardboard, and one of the kids was a tattoo artist, and he's like, "Well, my studio is just right down the road. We're gonna go and get this tattoo right now." So you know, we all go there, you know. So, you know, 16 drinks later. Luckily, he forgot the key in his studio. So that kind of saved us all from my art masterpiece. You know, but the spirit of the crew was high. You know what I mean? It was just like 24-hour hang at least. And you know, up until this day, San Francisco, we're going to be there in a couple of days. The guest list is like, you know.
I still have a shirt covered in wine, and I want, you know,
Yeah.
money tape.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, that was just amazing everything. First, I'm supposed to say Brian Long says hi.
Yeah.
I was supposed to deliver that message. I'm Brian. I've known him since he was 14. I was fucking 15. I want to share something with you that's important to me. I have the interesting experience that I've been connected with a Ukrainian woman for almost 3 years now, online. And it just developed, and I've been through death of my father, I've been through this, but the most amazing thing, it's just been me, you know. But I get texts like, or messages like, "Tonight the drones and bombs are flying. How are you doing?" How do you fucking answer, you know? But she cares about me, I care about her. But the most amazing story was 2 years ago when they fucking bombed the infrastructure. I get this message, "Total blackout in you." I'm like, then I read the news, it's like, fuck, it's like, you know, 4 days till I even make contact. And when I make contact with her, she's like, "I was out in the streets trying to message you." And I'm like, I know women that'll message if they're running late. You're messaging me about your situation in Ukraine? It just moved me. I've been with her through all of it. And over that weekend, I talked to Brian. I said, I gotta write a fucking song. And I want to write a song called "Fuck This War, I'm in Love." He goes, "Do it." And I did. And I mean, I can sing, but it's like, "Fuck this war, I'm in love." And I sing it to her, and she pumps her fucking hand, and she's singing along, "Fuck this war, I'm in love." And it's a great feeling. When I see her, I play her music, I cheer her up, we laugh. And I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah!
It's personal. That's why I really appreciate what you're doing. It hits me right to the bone. I want this fucking war done so I can meet her.
Yeah, man, listen, well, fuck why. Yeah. Just wanted to share that. Thanks for sharing. You know, I talk to my friends all the time who are there right now, and anytime if I monitor events there all the time, so you know, you hear about some heavy bombing in one town or another, and you check in with your friends there or family, and you know, if there is no response, you know, you won't sleep till you hear back from them, you know. So I'm very well aware of that situation, and also it's like, hey, you put it into through a creative prism, and that's a beautiful thing. But you know, as Frank Zappa I think said, you know, if music could change the world, we'd be living in fucking heaven a long time ago, you know. So unfortunately, it can't really reach maximum potential of the desired effect. But at the same time, fucking score, dude. You know? life is life in all its manifestations. So you're definitely doing the right thing by, you know, keeping it uplifting. Yeah, because that's really what it boils down to. I mean, you know, my friends in Ukraine, they're not. I mean, they're so done with like being, you know, trembling and that kind of thing. Then it's like there's bombing on. They're fucking sitting in a cafe, going like, "Hey, who's going on DJing next?" You know, it's kind of at some point, human mind has. You can't never really get used to it, but you get adapted to a point. I mean, I was there. I was out on 1 year. I was there twice since the war began, and I was in the middle of Kiev, and there was all the bars were full. There were soldiers from frontline who were taking several weeks off and chilling back in the city. You know, it was packed. My friend was DJing. We slept through a raid. You know, I didn't even hear any sirens. They were going on, I just didn't hear them. And it's better if you hear them, it's better if you go down into the shelter. But people are kind of like, you know, if Moscovites thought that that's how they're gonna win by, scaling, it's not working, you know, for sure. Nobody in Ukraine is scared of that whatsoever at this point. And people are actually have quite a serious degree of humor and resilience. I mean, it's not by any means fun or anything like that, and I have to constantly remind it to people. But people deal with it in a quite remarkable way, and the only way to, you know, it really is. So, yeah, it's a pretty devastating matter. But I went the last time I was there. I had actually it was a really great couple nights where I got together with the friends and it was kind of show just like this with just guitar, acoustic, and because it was not allowed to advertise. So nothing could be launched into where we are. But I don't know. I guess I would like it if the movie would capture a little bit more of resilience of Ukrainian people going through this. And there will be more art and documentaries about that in the coming years. But it's hopefully this will, you know, never happen again, that we have to deal with this kind of situation. Because in the 20th century, after 20th century was over, it was kind of like common understanding, I suppose, that, okay, nothing like World War II can ever happen again, right? Because it's just far too fucked up. And then here we go again, it's exactly at that level of intensity, not only in Ukraine and, the other places too. So I think it's about understanding that's a kind of big slap of reality for everybody, that those things can happen and will happen again, unless people will get less infantile. Because I think the world has been quite infantile in the last 20, 30, 40 years, allowing for things to happen.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, needless to say. So we kind of get to, I feel like there's a spell of infantility that's hovering over several generations already. And it's time to break that motherfucking spell.
Because I come from north and of the hill, you put me by the soul in the Bastille.
Here's a new one for you all. This one is called No Time for Idiots. Yeah, because I came through a fact that apparently etymology of word idiot goes back to Greece, where it simply actually is a name for a term for a person who's not involved in any social or political matters. Simple as that, you know? The original etymology of that is that. So that gives you kind of insight of how the percentage of that in current world is fucking skyrocketed. Back then it was an anomaly. Now this is the predominance, and that's part of the infantile spell, you know. And I think that, you know, keeping. I mean, education, and not education in an educational sense, but self-education is probably the fastest key to the acquiring anything close to freedom. It doesn't come from ignoring information and not processing it and not structuring it. It comes from actively seeking it out and applying hypercritical thinking to it. You know? And then the song came along. Or you might be Confucius. But don't forget about the moron always lurking in the bushes. To the interpret sweet lines of your story and give it glory of a different kind of artist category. I know you're ready to go, but I just want you to know that I got no time for idiots. Oh, sleep will be just fine. Get on, get on, get on. What's the secret ingredient? Idiot resilient soul, where you find? You might be Wittgenstein, you might be the Heraclitus. Wait, we already sang the verse. So, you know the back vocal, yeah, oh yeah, so you stay with Professor, and I'm gonna go on to the next verse right here. Sometimes the things they see exactly as they see. I heard of porcupines crossing boulevard of shattered dreams. So cold Sergey Nemtsov, professor of physics. I would use this amazing opportunity to fire away some questions at Brother Sergey, because I am constantly bombarded with the questions, what is he really like? And then show is over and off we go, and people remain to be unsatisfied. This is the time. Yeah.
Hello. So one thing I have been thinking a lot about is a lot of people like to be cynical. They think it's very cool to be cynical, and in my view, that cynicism and that nihilism serves the system. And I have spent some time living in Russia. I saw it at its extreme there, at its extreme. And I see it here in Seattle sometimes. People think they're too cool to engage. The system sucks, I'm above it, I'm too cool, I won't involve myself in politics. They have this myopic view. How do you stay out of that cynicism, and have you had any luck getting the people around you to stay out of that cynicism?
That's awesome. That's kind of stuff we think about all the time. So, actually, this is exactly what Gogol Bordello is. It's a kind of a little cluster of people that have some natural resilience to cynicism, and well, understanding and appreciating it, cynicism as a literary device. There's no sin in hardcore irony and cynicism and all these things as long as they're part of the mosaic of your life. So just another color of your life, right? You read a great piece of literature, there's always all these different shades coming in, and sarcasm and allegory and hyperbolizing things and making it way too fanciful and slapping back into reality. So we'll live for that because, those are all expressions of life and perceptions of life. But as a core principle of life, it's detrimental. So, in fact, our second album called Multi Contra Culti versus Irony, exactly for that philosophical reason. There was a book by, I think, Janet Birdie, a philosopher in the 90s, who wrote a song called Against Irony. And it was a book that made a stance against postmodernistic world vision and kind of basic, fucking hipster bullshit. Listen, it's all hipsters and all that, it's fine. It's a part of mosaic, they play their little role and they fade out and lifers stay and the more hipsters come, whatever, it's fine. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that in philosophical sense, there's hipsters of philosophy as well. And that's when it's more, you gotta squash that fast. Because it's so infectious, but it's actually so brainless. And by the late 90s, I'd say that irony was predominant mode of operation of anything and anywhere, from subculture into the mainstream. It became like that. So we kind of felt appalled by that. That it's not that there is absolutely nothing sacred, There are a few things that remain to be sacred. So cynicism and irony are all right as part of the picture, but as if that's your engine of survival, your ass is grass, You're not gonna get too far. And it's also, I find myself bickering with a lot of people who are, I'm a cynic, It's like, yeah, I'm a fucking cynic too. I'm actually a pessimist, I'm not, it's like people are like, you're so positive. I'm not so positive. Just take that last song, I don't know where they get that idea. It's kind of idiotic to be just positive no matter what. And so I think that there's I think that you have to, I guess there is this Native American parable that is similar to Chinese, I think to Confucius, where the child is asking basically the sage. No, the sage tells the child. So there's two forces. There's two wolves living within you, light one and a dark one. And the child goes, well, so which one which one's going to win? Since it's a never-ending struggle. And he says, well, the sage goes, it's the one that you're going to feed the most. So it's about that. It's like that's fine if there's all these conflicting forces, but it's the one that you cultivate, that's the one that you win, that's the one that's going to win in your internal conflict and hopefully in our global conflict. That's kind of how I see it. Yeah.
When will the Russian people say they've had enough? Will they ever?
Like, generally?
It's really hard to say. Russians not really, I'm Russian, okay? So, what is difference, it's my experience, difference between Russians and anybody else. Okay, I can ask, for example, American guy or some, just on the street, we have conversation, hey man, can you please what? I mean, can you do elementary? That's it. That's what you mean? Yes, exactly. That's what I mean, exactly. When I do the same thing to Russian, excuse me, can you do what? Fucking idiot. There's the difference.
You got that, right?
Sorry, are you Russian? And you punch.
Oh, then you must know the answer. Well, your people weren't terrorized enough by that neighbor that you still don't know somehow the answer. It's uncurable, That's what you meant, right? That it's uncurable? Incurable. That's what I gathered. But then I knew it. So, yeah. So, that's kind of, by the way, what Raptor is really like. So, fire away, please. Yeah, right here.
You mentioned that you had no involvement in this movie, so I'm wondering what it was like for you to watch that, for both you and Sergey. Obviously, you've been there, you lived it, but what was there personally when you watched the movie? Was there something that struck you or stood out or surprised you?
Well, I mentioned what in the movie?
You had no involvement in the making of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
In the whole process. And so what was it like for you to watch it at the end?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I saw it just like you. I went to the premiere and I was like, wow, okay. Yeah. I mean, it's always a bit unnerving, because you never see yourself in the same way as people see you. But once again, you have to take a higher road and let it be what they kind of I mean, if you trust the if you already signed up for making a movie with this team, then I say you get out of the situation and let them drive it home. You know, because everybody has some kind of vanity side to them, and you don't want to get it on the way because that will I think I'd rather see a picture of collage of imperfection and ongoing, you know, tumultuous this and that, which is of course the real side of life, than anything, you know, that you see on like, you know, and all those documentaries about musicians that come out so well polished and they literally have nothing to offer, you know, and then it's so that's why there's so many biopics came out as a parody on all those things because it's so formulaic and boring essentially. So I definitely didn't want it to be following that kind of, you know, sellable formula. And as a matter of fact, I encourage them to, you know, all those things that people who are not hardcore Gogol Bordello fans, but like fans who kind of came from, you know, more mainstreamish kind of spectrum, you know, there's some people that discovered us through some big, more splashy things, and those are all the things we took out. You know, so that's why you don't have awesome things in this film, like, you know, everything is illuminated film and the wrist cutters film, and, you know, working with Rick Rubin or working with Madonna, like all of that is just out because we were not making LA film, we were making fucking New York film. That's the fucking.
As a longtime fan, and I think I've learned from Gogol Bordello more than any other punk rock band that punk rock is universal. It's not just one culture, it's across multiple cultures. And it seems like it unites people, and even learning from the video or the movie, like when you got here to New York, you found a part of town, like a part of town where everybody unites around punk rock music. And I was just wondering if, geez, maybe there was a song about that you might have, where there's like an underground protest about everything as it is and everybody's struggle, because it is universal.
Yeah, I can't think of a dozen or songs. Have you been to a punk rock museum in Las Vegas that's recently opened?
Las Vegas, no.
No, I know it's an improbable location for that, but it is there. You know, Fat Mike, No Effects, bought the building there and started this thing. And it's actually quite great. It's probably the only fucking reason to visit Las Vegas. I've done several tours there, and, you know, awesome people do tours there. You know, Roger Miret from Agnostic Front, you know, Jello. You know, I think that what you're saying, like touching upon that idea of punk rock, that it's a global culture, is really well represented in there. And it's all going to get represented even more so because I got involved now, and I'm in charge of international section. So, yes, there is no way out. And I think that that's a really, really awesome phenomenon about punk is that, you know, it's a kind of, it's not high art. It's art, but it's not high art. And it's art that's fairly democratic to enter. Anybody can get in. In fact, you kind of have a pretty much built-in, semi-built-in audience to check you out. And if it's good and if it's authentic, it's gonna gain momentum and word is gonna spread because there are so many different streaks of punk, you know. And I remain to be a kind of a fanatic of all of the streaks of punk, pretty much, you know, from proto-punk, from the Monks and the Stooges and so on, you know, and which that museum captures, and to street punk, oi, you know, and so on, to art punk and dance punk and fucking whatnot. I collect all those things. Like, yeah, here's an amazing thing about punk. Like when I was 16 years old, I thought that punk was so old and so dumb. And I was like, ah, what's next? You know, and next it came, you know, and the next came hardcore, and then every time I went to the show, there was some new streak of hardcore. Now it's Hare Krishna hardcore. Now it's post-hardcore. Now it's fucking straight edge hardcore. It's like never stopped developing, and then it's like it's a punk revival, and now it's the fucking revival of hardcore, and so then post-punk revival. Then it was just another wave of experimental music. So now all these years later, I'm collecting all these chronicles and zines and everything I can get my hands on, because it's actually even more amazing to me than when it was when I was 14. And I find a lot of people across the world, you know, in Brazil and Australia and in Japan, in Eastern Europe, where people are just like, kind of, the punk aesthetic has shape-shifted. You know, new vital bands like, you know, Viagra Boys and the Milton Sniffers. They don't have you know, classic punk look or anything like that. But this is the new punk, and it's vital, you know. And Turnstile and all these bands that are totally kicking ass. It's nothing else but punk rock, and those are the bands that are, you know, showing them how it's done. You know,
picking up instruments and saying something.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so awesome to see, and which is once again the lost room in the punk rock museum. And I was really delighted by that, because I was hoping that it's going to be like that. First time I was going there, I was like, oh no, it's going to be, you know, a bunch of old flyers. But it was all this memorabilia with meaningful storytelling around it, really well crafted. I really encourage everyone to go and check it out. And the Lost Room kind of has such a promise of future punk, and it has the bands I just mentioned, you know, that are just like, wow, it's more than what I was hoping for. You know, there has to be something righteous about it that, you know, decades later, it's that vital. You know, igniting people who are, you know, from in any age, literally. You know? So, and yes, I do have a song or two to answer that question. Here's one, perhaps. Now that I'm living, but you can see I'm still holding the pen all my way. I got a friend, so we got a plan. Still make sound, take a stand without a getting out of bed. Big or gone, but I realize I'm just looking around. Hopefully I see another immigrant band that is a little bit of everywhere you go, I'm with the religion to go. This setting of this room, I've never been here before. It's a fucking awesome room. It kind of reminds me of this footages of Elvis Presley of his last days and last years. You know, I've kind of had a similar table situation, and feels like, you know, well, not tonight, but maybe tomorrow we'll do a little hats off to the king. You know, thank you everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. Say what?
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. We love Seattle. Yeah. So many cool bands. And that, well, Culture Shock is from here, you know. We had some great tours with Culture Shock band, yeah. Yeah, fuck yeah. Fucking great. What's that? I think we do. Yeah. I always feel like we're kind of, we don't want to overdo it in Seattle, you know, but Right, yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Warped Tour, you know, it's kind of a unique thing. And you did, like, you know, you were there, and we were kind of an anomaly on the Warped Tour, but nonetheless, we met a lot of friends, and you know, it was fucking great. Otherwise, I would never see the parking lots of Wisconsin. And Google it. But no, it's a boot camp. You know, it's really like, hey, it was quite a workout, and we made a lot of friends. I mean, you know, Tim Armstrong was fucking great, and you know, Transplants were on the tour. Yeah, Dropkick Murphys. We're going on. Speaking of Warped Tour, it's just so fresh in my mind because we're going on tour into Europe with Dropkick Murphys, who made connection on Warped Tour. You know, they're definitely lifers. You know, they're sticking true to the cause, and so here we're coming in. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Wow.
Russia and Germany and like other countries as well. But I have a movie question. Like not about this particular one, but you mentioned Risk Cutters and the roof and underground.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the story behind that song? Is there one?
Yeah, actually, amazingly enough, so the story of the movie is already kind of, there's a story because a friend of mine, Goran Dukic, he wrote the scenario he wrote it for me to do the lead role. And, you know, we were drinking buddies in New York and stumbling through the city and, you know, throwing up on every corner. You know, creative catharsis. He's like, I'm from Ukraine, he's Serbian, so what do you expect? And so we had a lot to discuss. And you know, this was before Gogol Bordello was on the map. This is kind of like formative years. And so he was talking about, you know, going to LA and pursuing his film dream, being a director. And I was talking about starting a band. And eventually, you know, I did that and he did that. And then he called me and said, hey, now that, you know, I got my things together and I have this script that as I told you, I'm going to write something for you. And the thing is that at that point, Everything is Illuminated just came out. And it was a great thing, great film. I was psyched to be there. But I left the band without, the band was inactive for almost 9 months or a year because of that. It was like we canceled a couple tours. And that was not a great thing to do for a band. That's how you can lose your band, actually. And because people, it wasn't only a gang, it wasn't only our gang, but people were also trying to make a living. And so I said, hey, Goran, I don't think I can do that, actually, because I'm really risking not having a band if I just go on and do this next movie. So, with you, even though we had this, agreement, not agreement, but a tentative idea. And so he was like, wow, he was pretty bummed out, but I was like, all right, I have this, I'm gonna rescue the idea, I'm gonna get somebody else to play that part, but, can I use your music? I said, yeah, take all the music you want, use it for free, whatever, every song, whatever you need, let's do it like that, which he did. And Through the Roof Underground was kind of heavily featured in the film. But it wasn't written for it. It was already released before that. And I guess it's really complements the movie because the movie is a kind of a dark fantasy about people, people's afterlife after they commit suicide. And they're pursuing that kind of more gruesome side of life. So, afterlife. So, the song was, Through the Roof Underground says it all. I mean, it's poetic language. It wasn't written for the movie. He was talking about our perpetual human, struggle of being humans. But Goran used it, and he said to me, "You're a fucking idiot." Yeah. Tom Waits, who was in that movie also, loved that fucking song. So this is your story about how you never met and hung out with Tom Waits. Because he knew I'm a major fan of Tom Waits, and so Sergey, and who isn't, Yeah, so that was his big fuck you to me. He was like, "I'm gonna get Tom Waits again, and you're gonna be so fucking bummed out." Not quite the Tom Waits, but yes, we got along all right. Just the other day in New York City, went to an art opening and met for the first time Shad, the actor who played that part in that film. And so we nearly threw up together. Later on that same evening. Yeah, he's a great actor for sure. It was a very kind of a emotional evening because I was like, "I can't believe I never did it. I can't believe I fucking did it. I can't believe Goran is not here." It was this whole kind of, dance off. Yeah, so we're gonna get together now in LA on our similar kind of evening in a couple days with the trio is gonna be united and see what we can do. So, and here's the song, by the way, yeah. Damn, I hate being out of tune, I really do. And it's always G. Of course. We busted a lot of strings last year, so put new strings and you know what happens there. Oh yeah. There's a tuner here. So, He's gone door to door, but finds the silence, 'cause no one lives there anymore. Rebellious love, this days get no place, and it's running out of style. In shame it's covering its place. Love is running back to God, back to God, back to God. God is running after man, after man, after man. Man will run to the unknown, the unknown, the unknown. From unknown love comes again. Capture, 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 capture. Will they ever capture one another? Will they ever capture us? Capture, 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 capture. Will they ever capture one another? Will they ever capture us? Rebellious love, your destiny's arranged, your days are numbered, and soon you will be caged. But rebellious love, until they know, 'cause without you, there's nothing for me to do. Love is running back to God, back to God, back to God. God is running after man, after man, after man. Man will run to the unknown, the unknown, the unknown. From unknown will come to the end. Capture, 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 capture. Will they ever capture one another? Will they ever capture us? Capture, 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 capture. Will they ever capture one another? Will they capture us? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Will the colors ever get to capture us? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Will the colors ever capture us? Capture us. Thank you, people, so much. Well, way to go. All right, we're about 45 minutes after the fucking curfew. So how about 12 more? What? And it's Shelby. That's a good one, too, yeah. Yeah, it's all fucking good, yeah. the sun comes up. But when the sun comes up, My orphan, all the sea, your obsolete prophecy, our destiny, we can never hide when the sun comes up. Oh, when the sun comes up, it will be on my side. It will be on my side. Comes up when the sun comes up.